Alright, hello party people. Hope you're having a good day. Today is, of course, as usual, Terra Tuesday. And I figured I'd throw something together in a bit of a hurry today. I'm actually not feeling the best and slept in. So, yeah. It is what it is. But before I get started, of course, I need to get the important call to action stuff out of the way. First off, thanks as always to my 266 followers on Rumble. I keep forgetting to look at my YouTube, but one of these days I will actually remember to do that. Also, if you would like to support me, you can head over to the Ko-Fi. The link is in the ticker and in the description. And if I decide to do this as an instant premiere on YouTube, it will also be in a pinned comment. I'm not sure if I'll do that or not yet. But in any event, excuse me. If you would like to support me financially, you can head over to the Ko-Fi, fling me a few bucks there. If you do that on a monthly basis, I'll put your name in the ticker alongside Zenrab7 and Simon JJ, unless you ask me not to use your name, in which case I'll put you in the Orangutan Gang and add a deuce. Yeah. If you want to support me without spending any money, you can like, share, chat, comment, follow, or subscribe, depending on which platform, of course, because if you follow on Rumble, it's free. If you subscribe on Rumble, it costs you. And while I don't necessarily want to argue you out of spending money on me, if you have access to Ko-Fi, if you can use Ko-Fi, I would prefer you do that, because the cut that Rumble takes is damn near ruinous. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, let's get back to the purpose of this show. So the whole point of this is, movies, television, and I did include video games in the search. There's not a lot of video games that have a Newfoundland connection. There's not really a lot of movies that have a Newfoundland connection. You can get the most tenuous ones, things like Indiana Jones. I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think the entire series, the scrolling map, the plane flight route, generally features a stop in Newfoundland. And that's because up until about the middle of the last century, Newfoundland was the air travel hub to get across the Atlantic. Let's see. As far as video games go, the only one I can think of that might have a Newfoundland connection, other than potentially Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I think it was, the Viking one, which I never played. The only other one I can think of that could have a Newfoundland connection, but I don't... If it's there, I may be misremembering that it's there, but it may actually be there, is Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Which reminds me, I actually mean to start playing that soon, and I'll probably stream that. I may stream that on Kick. I haven't decided yet. Anyway, moving on. Go to goodness, forgive me, the Brave search first. So what I got for the results were this. I asked the question, movies, television, and video games set or shot in Newfoundland. And the response was, for movies set or shot in Newfoundland, Newfoundland's rugged coastline, colorful towns, and unique culture, it's nice to be noticed, have made it a popular filming location. Many productions are set in the province, while others use its landscapes to stand in for other locations. There was actually a couple of points here that I was completely unaware of. And we'll get to that now. Or eventually, anyway. Major feature films. The Shipping News, starring Kevin Spacey and Judi Dench. A very... Well, I would say it was a great movie. It was a good movie. It was filmed in Trinity and other coastal towns, adapting Annie Proulx's novel about a journalist returning to his ancestral home. Judi Dench apparently became a bit of a legendary figure around the areas that she was filming in for, let's say, endurance in pub games. The film The Grand Seduction is a comedy from 2013, is a comedy starring one of my favorite actors, and this film is part of the reason he's one of my favorite actors, Brendan Gleeson and Gordon Pinsent. That was shot in Trinity Bay, New Bonaventure, and Redcliffe, and it depicted a village's scheme to attract and keep a doctor. Maudie, which I've never actually seen, featuring Sally Hawkins and Ethan Hawke, was filmed in Port Rexton and Trinity, telling the story of folk artist Maud Lewis, though it was technically set in Nova Scotia. Newfoundland is used as a stand-in quite a lot for other places. Other notable films include Rare Birds, which was shot in St. John's and Bay Bulls, Goon, 2011, that's a hockey film, Sean Thomas Scott? Stifler. I hate calling him Stifler because I don't think he should be pigeonholed into one role. I actually liked him far better in The Rundown than I did in any of the American Pie movies. Goon used St. John's locations, some of the rinks and things. Black Conflux. I've never heard of it. It's a thriller filmed in St. John's. Can I search that? I probably could if I do it this way. Let's have a gander at that, shall we? IMDb, Control V, and check the date, 2019. There we are. We'll just close that one out. Okay, so let's see the synopsis here. The seemingly separate lives of an anxious, disillusioned teen girl and a troubled, alienated man converge fatefully in this haunting exploration of womanhood, isolation, and toxic masculinity set in 1980s Newfoundland. Shame. Written and directed by Nicole Dorsey. Good for her. Anyway, moving back to here. Braven, which was an action film from 2018, starred Jason Momoa, was shot in various Newfoundland locations. I need to actually make a note of that because I have looked at possibly watching that before, and I wasn't aware of the Newfoundland connection for Braven. I knew that he had been in Newfoundland filming, but I was under the impression it was for Frontier. I may have been wrong. And that might very well be an MMR one of these days. Let's see here. Peter Pan and Wendy filmed scenes in Tickle Cove and Cable John Cove. Another note that I want to add to the Peter Pan lore: Nana, the dog, is not supposed to be a Saint Bernard as depicted in the cartoon. Is not supposed to be a tiny little cracky as depicted in other media. Nana was a Newfoundland dog, because there are no great big dogs better with kids than Newfoundlands. Yeah. Let's see, what else have we got here? Hallmark movies like My Christmas Guide, Merry Mystery Christmas, and Everything Christmas were also shot in St. John's. For television series, we have quite a few. The Republic of Doyle, which ran from 2010 to 2014, used to film in my favorite pub in St. John's, at least in part, the Duke of Duckworth. So if you get a chance, go, patronize that place. And that's claimed to be the most iconic TV series filmed entirely in St. John's. Hudson and Rex, a police procedural, continues to film in St. John's and surrounding areas. Son of a Critch, a comedy based on Mark Critch's memoirs, is set and filmed in 80s St. John's. The upcoming Netflix series Below, from 2025, that would not be upcoming, starring Josh Hartnett, is set in a remote Newfoundland town dealing with a sea creature. Now, I've done pieces on the Newfoundland cryptids before. I may even have touched on our sea serpents, for lack of a better term. There have been a few different sightings in different places. One near my actual hometown in Fortune Bay ended up getting named Fortuna. Just, Portuguese word for chance. Fortuna. There's a pile of different cryptid stuff. All those episodes will be in the playlist, the Terra Nova Tuesday playlist on my YouTube. I believe I have a Terra Nova Tuesday playlist on my Rumble, but I don't know if those are public. I have to have a look at that, which is something else I should make a note of. Public Rumble playlists. Okay. Let's see what else we got here. Historical and cultural series. Now, these are important because Newfoundland comedy is difficult to describe. We have great comedy troupes like Buddy What's His Name and the other fellers. Who else do we have? Well, Codco, the Wonderful Grand Band. There are points where it has almost the level of highbrow of British comedy, but at the same time there's a strong degree of improvisational. It's almost its own unique thing. most Canadian comedy is similar. If it's, well, not really, I guess. In any case, moving on. Yeah, Codco from 88 to 92 was a groundbreaking comedy troupe. The Adventures of Faustus Bidgood from 1986. I've heard of that before, but I don't believe I've ever seen it. And Random Passage was a miniseries based on Bernice Morgan's novels. St. Pierre, which is technically not based in Newfoundland, because the St. Pierre and Miquelon Islands that are just off our coast are technically French territory. So, not exactly Newfoundland. Though, apparently, they've been included in the Newfoundland games, like summer games and things. So, I imagine it's only a matter of time before they end up being part of the country as well. Let's see. St. Pierre and Astrid and Lily Save the World are more recent productions in the province. Video games set in Newfoundland. Let's see. Notable title. Oh, hey, I have to mark some of these down. Assassin's Creed Rogue actually has Newfoundland in it. That's interesting. Okay, so the Caribou Trail. From this year is a narrative-driven adventure game following a soldier in the RNR, the Royal Newfoundland Regiment, during the World War I Gallipoli campaign. Developed by unreliable narrators. I love it when, you know, a game development studio chooses something so perfect for a name for it. It's called Unreliable Narrators. The game, The Caribou Trail, emphasizes psychological storytelling over combat. You're gonna lose customers that way. Apparently Assassin's Creed Rogue has the connection. Maybe it's Rogue that I was remembering. Assassin's Creed Rogue from 2014 includes Newfoundland as part of its North Atlantic open world, allowing players to visit historical settlements. Regiment, a project by Stormy Shore Studios, announced in 2020, aims to depict the Royal Newfoundland Regiment with narration by Gordon Pinsent. Though its release status is unclear. I believe Gordon Pinsent has passed away. So, I don't know. I don't know if that's going to work out too well. Yeah, he passed away 3 years ago. I'm going to guess they... Then again, at this point, they could potentially use AI to replicate his voice. I don't know if I like that idea, but it's an option. Indie titles like Two Falls from 2023 explore Indigenous stories in Canada, though not exclusively set in Newfoundland. Some games, like XCOM Enemy Unknown, include missions set in Newfoundland, but these are brief. I know one of my internet friends used to play XCOM, and he actually created a character based on designs that I had suggested for him. Let's see. So key filming locations in the province include St. John's. The downtown Signal Hill Logie Bay Studios host most productions, including Republic of Doyle and Hudson and Rex. Trinity and the Bonavista Peninsula were used for the Grand Seduction, Shipping News, and Maudie. Port Rexton featured in Maudie and Peter Pan and Wendy. And CBS, Conception Bay South, which, yes, I know that makes some of the Brits giggle, Jimmy Carr in particular, was used for the Grand Seduction and Hudson and Rex. And we'll just have a quick look at some of these images here, because I do believe that's the end of the responses here. Yes. Okay. Really? Can I not get a full page of this? Okay. This is the Narrows in St. John's. These are, yeah, off to one side and very small. Give me a second here. Let me just open the image. What's this one? That's Cape Spear, I believe. That'll be over on the west coast. Actually, that's probably in the Port Rexton area, I would think. And I'm just going to open a few different images here, just to show you some of the scenery. And I'm going to guess this is Jason Momoa. Okay, so we'll start with this one. This is the Narrows in St. John's. This is the entry to the harbor. Here, this area here is what was called Fort Townsend. Fun fact, Bill Cosby served there. Yeah. Is it Fort Townsend or Fort Amherst? I always get them confused. I think Fort Amherst is in Nova Scotia, though. But moving on. This is just a shot, I believe, from Cape Spear, which is the most easterly point in North America. This will be Quidi Vidi Village, I believe. Possibly St. John's Harbor. No, I think this is Quidi Vidi. Quidividi. And variously pronounced as Quidi Vidi, Kaidavida, Quidavida. Kitavida I've heard as well, but I think that guy was screwing with me. Let's see, what else have we got here? This is an older shot of St. John's downtown. A lot of these row houses down here don't exist anymore. The problem with the row houses, of course, is that they shared generally a roof line and a wall. And what happened a lot, and we did have, I believe there have been 3 great fires of St. John's now, and those houses basically went up like tinder. They just, yeah. One of the other problems as well was because some of them had different height roofs. For whatever reason, there was a fashion at some point of aligning all the roof lines. I'm guessing for some sort of convenience, maybe for aesthetics. And of course, because you added a false roof, you have 2 layers here with a lovely layer of air in between to burn. Yeah. Yeah. But I don't believe these particular row houses are still there because I think they've been torn down and used for development. I think that site has been used for developments. This is that the Basilica? That's the Basilica. Okay. So that's Military Road is this area here. That runs down out of the picture where you can't see it, unfortunately. Let's see, what else have we got? That's Churchill Square in the background, I believe. If I have my bearings right, I may be wrong. You can just see the edge of the rooms over here. That's the museum in St. John's. But yeah, it's a colorful old town, even though it's often described as a dirty old town in a lot of songs. I have to admit, I don't know where this is for certain. I'm going to guess it's somewhere on the west coast because that seems to have been the big logging and transportation area. Yeah, it's. I can say conclusively it's definitely not on the Burin Peninsula because that's where I grew up, where I've lived most of my life. Let's see. Icebergs. We get icebergs. A lot of icebergs. Big icebergs. For the record, some people are absolutely retarded and will actually run a boat through these areas. Yeah, you know why that's a bad idea? Because what's above the water is roughly 10% of the iceberg's actual volume. And icebergs have this disturbing tendency that when they get into warmer waters, they do this thing called calving, and occasionally roll completely over. You do not want your boat in there when that happens. And quite a lot of the time, people are told to maintain extreme distance. Like where this boat is probably the safest distance. It's close to the safest distance. You have to realize, because if the back end of this breaks off and that entire thing rolls over, it's not just the weight of the ice coming down. You have to realize there is a massive chunk of ice underneath that, and that's going to create a massive suction effect. You don't want to end up involved with that. It's bad for you. Let's see. We have a lighthouse. Where's this? I'm going to guess this is also over on the west coast, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, I mean that's Newfoundland's rugged coastline for sure. This is not actually Newfoundland. I believe this is Lunenburg. I think this is Nova Scotia. And this is, in fact, Jason Momoa, and he's in the Codroy... No, not the Codroy Valley. Grossmorn National Park, the fjords in Grossmorn. Yeah, it's not the most attractive country in the winter. Beautiful in a kind of stark kind of way. Anyway, we'll move on. You value my privacy. Well, that's good to know. I reject your interest in my privacy. So from list challenges, we have 20 films filmed in Newfoundland. 20 movies filmed in Newfoundland. Rare Birds, which you mentioned, the shipping news. Love and Savagery, I've never heard of. Can I open link here to... No. Yes? Maybe? Will that take me to the IMDb or just somewhere useless? Okay, so in 1969, a visiting geologist from Newfoundland arouses scandal in a small Irish village when he romances a local girl who's destined for the convent. And it stars Alan Hocko, Sarah Green, Louise Nicole. So it was filmed in Newfoundland with largely a Newfoundland cast from the looks of it. Okay. We'll go back to this one. The Grand Seduction I've spoken of. If you've never seen The Grand Seduction, you should watch it. It is quite enjoyable. It's Brendan Gleeson and Taylor Kitsch. Grown-up movie star. Behind the Red Door. Young Triffy. This one is variously called Young Triffy and Young Triffy's Been Made Away With, and Someone's Made Away with Young Triffy, depending on where you find it. Terribly miscast Fred Uwaniuk as a Newfoundland Ranger who doesn't measure up to the standards of the Newfoundland Ranger Force at all in the pre-Second World War era. It's kind of funny. Colin Mockery is in it as well. It's got its moments. The Rowdyman. Outlander, 2008. Oh, this is the Jim Caviezel Alien movie. Yeah, not really set in Newfoundland as much as it was shot in Newfoundland. Yeah. Behind the Wall, Cast No Shadow. Let's see. The Boys of St. Vincent. This is about sexual abuse of young boys in the Catholic Church. It's somewhat loosely based, as I understand it, on the Mount Cashel scandal. It's well made, but brutal to watch. Let's see. Random Passage we mentioned. Hold Fast. I'm very curious about this one, because I'm curious who these actors are. Two teenage boys escape an unhappy home, embarking on a perilous journey of self-discovery that takes them deep into the Newfoundland wilderness. Right. Avery Ash, Mike Daly. Oh, no. Avery Ash and Liam Dawson. Okay. Sure. Above and Beyond. Heyday. The Viking from 1931. Let's have a look at that one. I don't believe I've ever watched that. And I'm pretty sure that's probably in the public domain, so I might be able to watch it with you guys. Okay, Luke, a sailor believing he's cursed, resists joining an Arctic sealing voyage until pushed... Sealing, not sailing. Sealing. As in they're going seal hunting. Until pushed by his sweetheart to prove he's not jinxed, and by Jed, who has hidden motives. I suspect Jed wants to get into, what's her name's pants? The sweetheart. Yeah. Oh, it's definitely in black and white. Anything said here about... First talkie produced in Canada. Cool. Okay, Luke, young sailor and fisherman who thinks he is jinx-ridden, has to be persuaded and taunted before he will join a sealing expedition in the Arctic. First by his sweetheart, so that he can find he is not a jinx, and also by Jed. At no point does he think he's a jinx if he thinks he's jinx-ridden. It's terribly written there, Les. Who has a devious reason. Let's see. Picture of ice and snow and adventure. The right sort of offering for a summer night's entertainment. Let's see. Trivia. Okay. Oh, the SS Viking. Okay. Yeah. Oof. That's not a good story, the Viking. Sue the Viking? Sue. Not sure what that one is. Voyage, maybe? Sail of the Viking? Anyway, I'm going to see if that movie is... I will decline all, thank you. I'll see if that movie is public domain. If it is, I'll set up a watch-along. Maybe we'll do that next Tuesday. Let's see what we got here. From postcards. Excuse me. From postcards and places. TV shows and movies set in Newfoundland. Let's see. This is written by... who? Let's find out. She calls herself a West Coast, Best Coast girl. So I'm kind of curious who wrote this. Does not say. Okay. Well, we'll scroll through this a little quickly, because most of this is going to have been covered. The indigenous peoples in Newfoundland and Labrador do not include the Mi'kmaq. They are not indigenous to this island. They moved in after the Beothuk were wiped out. Nice try, though. Yeah. Archaeological evidence suggests Icelandic Vikings settled in Newfoundland about 1,000 years ago. True. Today, much of the population is descended from English and Irish. There's a strange misconception a lot of people have that we're mostly Irish. We're actually mostly English. There is a substantial Scottish component on the west coast. There is a substantial Irish component on the Avalon Peninsula. By and large, we're all mostly English in terms of the settlement descent. Let's see. Let's just scroll through, see what you've got here. Anything we haven't covered? Hudson and Rex. Republic of Doyle. I do love that car. Let's see. St. Pierre. No, sorry. Saint Pierre. Yeah. Let's see. Set during the Prohibition era. That's funny, because Prohibition era St. Pierre was a smuggling hotbed to the point that Al Capone actually visited. Yeah, and passed through the town that I'm sitting in right now. Let's see. Yeah. Al Capone was not operating in St. Pierre, though. That's a little bit of a rum runner's tall tale. Let's see. Son of a Critch. The Grand Seduction. Titanic. Well, yes, obviously Titanic has a connection to Newfoundland because that's where some of the rescuees were taken. Yeah, in Titanic 1997, the Oscar award-winning drama by Canadian... Cameron's Canadian? I didn't know that. We never actually see Newfoundland, but it is a Newfoundland story. I think at some point there is a mention of Newfoundland and potentially a shot of a map that shows Newfoundland. This gripping historical drama, directed by Cameron, is a historical romance and disaster film that tells the story of the ill-fated voyage of the RMS Titanic through the eyes of Rose DeWitt Bukater. Bukater? Excuse me. She is a young upper-class woman, and on the ship she meets Jack Dawson, a penniless artist, played, of course, by my favorite actor, Leonardo DiCaprio. The two fall in love, but their romance is challenged by class differences, the impending disaster, and the fact that Rose wouldn't let him on that fucking door. Yeah, the iceberg struck off the coast of Newfoundland, yes. Let's see. Come From Away. You Are Here, a Come From Away story. Yeah, Come From Away is the stage show, and I guess they built a film around that. But in 2001, on September 11th, Gander and its airport were main characters there. Yeah, the residents of Gander, a town with a population of just 11,000, opened their homes, schools, and hearts to the travelers, offering food, shelter, and comfort in the midst of chaos. Does it actually give a number of how many people? Yes. After the terrorist attacks in New York City on September 11th, the small town of Gander became the unexpected home for 7,000 stranded airline passengers. So, imagine you're living in a small town in Newfoundland. It's a nice September day, and all of a sudden the sky starts falling and your town swells almost twice its size like that. That's what it was like. Yeah. Sweetland. Sweetland is a drama adapted from the novel by Michael Crummey. The film centers on a retired fisherman who refuses to leave the isolated outport town of Sweetland in Newfoundland and Labrador when the provincial government launches a resettlement initiative. If you're not aware of the resettlement era in Newfoundland, it's one of the darkest eras that a lot of us have been through. If intergenerational trauma exists, people who went through resettlement and their children definitely suffer from it. I'm not a big proponent of the idea of intergenerational trauma. Not to say that I don't think trauma can't be passed down by generations, but I don't think the fact that my parents were resettled means that I have the same trauma. Yeah. It's a beautifully shot film that captures the isolation and resistance of Newfoundland's real-life resettlement programs. The resettlement was done in 3 stages between 54 and 75, resulting in the forced abandonment of 300 communities and displacement of 30,000 people. Yeah, which reminds me, actually, I was going to mention, and they do here, in the current century, voluntary resettlements have relocated 8 communities. Notice how they added the adjective voluntary all of a sudden? Yeah. The small coastal community my grandmother was from voted against relocation in 2021. That may very well have ended up being a bad choice, but yeah. My family used to have a small cabin in the small town that my mother grew up in. Sorry, my mother was resettled from when she was 6. Yeah. I still have very fond memories of that area. The shipping news. You might be wondering about the cables. Yeah, no, that's because the wind gets so fucking rough here. Yeah. No, that's a legit house. That's not something they put up just for the movie. It's not uncommon. Seen it a few times. Dear Zachary, a letter to a son about his father. It's a documentary, true crime story. So, yeah, I would say that's Mount Pearl, almost from the looks of it. Does it say? It's about a man who was murdered by his girlfriend. A Canadian he met whilst... of course, because, the Canadian has to be the bad guy. Or bad girl, in this case, I suppose. Anyway, moving on. Movies and TV shows set in Newfoundland. This won't take very long at all, because this is just a trash page from the look of it. Cracky. Now, for the record, cracky has nothing to do with drugs in the Newfoundland vernacular. Cracky refers to a small dog that goes yip, 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 yip. Generally, it's not applied to dachshunds, for example, but something like a Maltipoo or a Shih Tzu or a Lhasa Apso, things like very ornamental tiny dogs. They tend to be the things that get described as crackies because there's not much use for them. Dachshunds were ratters, things like that. That's just a little bit of a linguistics lesson for you. So it's a Canadian drama from 2009. Life on the Rock never seemed easy, but for Mitzi it is especially rough. The teenager has been abandoned by her mother, a particularly unfit parent prone to both the bottle and the sex trade. Your mom's a whore. She is left to be brought up by her mercurial, and that's where it cuts off. Oh, yes, no, by all means, highlight promiscuous mother. Riverhead. Blood feud divides a small town in rural Newfoundland. That's from 2016. Grand Seduction again. St. Pierre again. A Lobster Tale. Nothing to do with Jordan Peterson. Settle down. Cody Brewer, a quiet New England fisherman, isn't doing too well for himself. His wife feels neglected, and his son keeps getting picked on by the school bully. While out collecting his lobster traps one day, Cody finds a strange green moss. Well, that's nice. New England, Maine, USA, Newfoundland. Are you actually set in Newfoundland? I don't think so. Not when he describes it as New England. Was it shot in Newfoundland? Maybe. Hard to say. To be fair, that does look like it could be Newfoundland. Behind the Red Door, set in New York and New England, but filmed in Newfoundland. Black Conflux. We talked about that. Bayo, that's from 85. Sharon and her 10-year-old son Bayo live in Tickle Cove. Like generations of their family before. Oh, speaking of tiny towns and generations of families, Tales from Pigeon Inlet. If you can find that, that's worth watching as well. That's more Newfoundland content for you. Let me see if I can find it, because that would make a very fun MMR. Sorry, MMR, Monday Media Review. Speaking of which, you can find yesterday's on the first episode of Lanterns. God, did it to myself again. Sorry, you can find that on all my channels, including my X account. Misery Harbor from 99. A young writer named Espen Arnica tells the story of his escape from the small Danish town of Janta. He boarded a ship headed to Newfoundland, but the harsh conditions on board make him jump. He ends up in a little town of misery. Okay. Audience of Chairs. Maura Mackenzie believes the world is hers to conquer. Her career as a concert pianist gaining momentum. It seems her beauty and talent will be strong enough to mask the demons that threaten to engulf her. Excuse me. Okay. Orca. This one I should have actually remembered. This was also shot in Newfoundland, though it was set in the Netherlands, I think, if I recall correctly. No, I'm wrong. Okay. After witnessing the killing of his mate and offspring at Captain Nolan's hands, a vengeful killer whale, yes, this was basically just a Jaws ripoff, goes on a rampage in the fisherman's Newfoundland harbor. Under pressure from the villagers, Nolan, Rachel, and Umalak sail after them. Yeah, here's the thing. There are no killer whales in the Atlantic. Not that I'm aware of. Oops, sorry about that. Yes, I did. Really? Eastern Canadian killer whales, the great unknown of the Atlantic. Oh, I've never seen one. Oh, apparently there have been sightings. St. Anthony and St. Pierre. Cool. And also now you know where St. Anthony and St. Pierre are. Huh. I guess they're distributed all around the island. I didn't know that. I've never seen one. And, I mean, they're kind of distinctive. You'd notice it right away. But anyway. Oops. There we are. So Orca was from 77. Yeah, it was absolute Jaws ripoff. Down to the Dirt from 2008. 30-year-old Keith Kavanagh ekes his way through life in a small town, hard-drinking hooligan, keeps his ragged collection of poetry a closely guarded secret. Okay, that's from 2008. Little Orphans from 2020. Okay, so that's a family dysfunction movie. What? Friend, 1988. Looks to be Russian. Looking for the money for a drink, an alcoholic gets a Newfoundland dog as a present from a stranger at a bird fair. He'll soon find out that the animal is not only able to speak, but to get him to give up drinking as well. Okay, yeah. Friend, 1988, Russian, Soviet. Now, the good thing about that is, excuse me, I've got quite the whistle in my throat. The good thing about that is the Soviet Union no longer exists and therefore has no ability to enforce copyright. Yeah, I'm going to have a good long look at this. And that was made very close to the collapse of the Union, too. Okay, anything else? The Crab Drum. It's a French movie. Dying French naval frigate captain tries to make a last rendezvous in the winter storm-tossed seas off the Grand Banks with Le Crabe Tambour, a French war hero he had betrayed 20 years earlier. Above and Beyond, 2006, we talked about that. That's talking about the Atlantic Ferry operation during World War II. Yeah. The Terry Fox story, that's technically more of a Canadian piece than just Newfoundland. Codco. Oh, they have a trailer for Codco? Let's check this out. Do you actually have a trailer for Codco? Oh, come on. What a ripoff. Oh, well. Yeah, Codco is similar to Kids in the Hall as well. Somewhat. Another one about Terry Fox, Love and Savagery, Mahdi, and I think that's probably... Nope. Frontier from 2016. Chaotic and violent struggle to control wealth and power in the North American fur trade in late 18th century Canada. Told from multiple perspectives, Frontier takes place in a world where business negotiations might be resolved with, a gun. I don't think it's much here in Newfoundland. What's this? Little Dog. I've seen this. Yeah. Pro boxer Tommy Little Dog Ross, the favorite to win the championship belt, has a world-class meltdown in the middle of the fight, walks out of the ring. We meet up with him again 5 years later, living a life of general self-destruction. Yeah, I've seen this movie. It's actually not bad. Boys of St. Vincent, John and the Missus, 1986. A small Canadian town is devastated when a local mine. No. This shouldn't be described as a Canadian town. Should be a Newfoundland town. But anyway. Hudson and Rex, Rare Birds, K-Pax. I don't think K-Pax has any sort of a connection to this province. At all. I think he might mention Newfoundland. Or maybe there's a Newfoundland dog in the show. In the film. 9/11. Attila Marcel from 2013. Paul is a sweet man-child raised and smothered by his two eccentric aunts in Paris. Okay. He doesn't talk at 33 years old. This is probably some sort of fantasy story masquerading as a documentary. Severed Ways, The Norse Discovery of America, 2007. Have a look at that, too. Norse. And technically it wouldn't have been the Norse Discovery of America. It would have been the Norse Discovery of Newfoundland. But, an unexpectedly modern take on a tale of two Viking warriors abandoned on the American coast. Warning, contains a graphic answer to the question, do Vikings shit in the woods? Excuse me while I just scratch that off and have nothing to do with it. Yeah. SOS Titanic. What year is that from? 79. Going the Distance, 2004. If that has anything to do with Newfoundland, it's very little. Flight Plan. Amelia. Amelia Earhart had a lot of connections to Newfoundland. I believe it was the transatlantic trip that she took. She took off from St. John's. Closet Monster. Sure, okay. Restless Spirits. Grown-up movie star. The Station Agent. As I understand it, this Peter Dinklage movie is supposed to be shot in Newfoundland, but I'm not 100% on that one either. Yeah, so that looks like that's all of them. And we'll go through the Wikipedia really quick. Faustus Bidgood, The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. Let's have a look at that. What year is that? 51? 53. Okay. Blackwood, 76. Blueberry Grunt. That's the name of the dessert. We'll have a quick look at that. Blueberry Grunt is a Canadian drama film directed by Sherry White, released in 2025, so only last year. Shot in 2024. Film premiered. Really no mention of what Blueberry Grunt actually means. Who writes these articles? Body and Bones. Body and Bones is a phrase that's used here in Newfoundland. If you're ejecting someone from your home, for example, you might take them up, body and bones, and put them out the door. Yeah. Crown and Anchor. Divine Ryans. Extraordinary Visitor. Yeah, I thought that was what this one was. This is Raoul Beneja as John the Baptist. No. Hang Ashore. Hang Ashore is a Newfoundland insult. John and the Missus. Hang Ashore is essentially equivalent. It's kind of the civilian equivalent of landlubber if you're a pirate. Let's see. Legend of the North Wind. A Little Fellow from Gambo. That's going to be about Joey Smallwood. Yeah. Fuck communist. Multiple choice. Knowledge of Night. No Highway in the Sky. No Highway in the Sky. 51 black and white aviation drama film. Like I said, middle of the last century, Newfoundland was the nexus for cross-Atlantic air travel. Rare Birds, Riverhead, Rowdyman, Sealed Cargo, Secret Nation. Secret Nation, I think I've done a review on. Yes. Didn't thoroughly enjoy that one, though. Skeet doesn't mean what you think it means. Here in Newfoundland, it's basically another word for a mall rat. Yeah, I know. Under the Weather, The Viking, Violet, Vive la Rose, a Whale for the Killing, and Young Triffy. Okay. I think we've gone through pretty much everything we're likely to find there. The only other things I wanted to look at were the government pages. I'm hoping they'll be. There's a shot from Peter Pan and Wendy. That's definitely Cape Spear. Shot from The Grand Seduction. That's disturbingly pathetic codfish. and I'm not shitting on the guys who caught it, and good on them. But generally, yeah, I mean, when I was 8 years old, I have a picture of me holding a codfish so long that my arms are above my head at full stretch, and this thing is still on the deck of the boat, bent. Yeah. Codfish used to be way bigger. It's the perils of overfishing, unfortunately. Rare Birds. Love and Savagery. Shipping News. Hold Fast. I'm pretty sure I've driven that road. Actually, I know I have. That's out in the Codroy Valley, out in the Port aux Basques area. That's actually a highway. Yeah. Aquaman? Really? There have been many productions either partially or fully shot in the province. Aquaman is a great example of a motion picture that films several scenes, landscapes, and exteriors here, including Petty Harbor. Oh, okay. It's probably the largest one we've had, then. That doesn't look like a lot of fun. Mahdi. Let's see. Outlander. Republic of Doyle. Random Passage. I don't recall ever seeing a sod stage here. Frontier. Guys, I know you're the government and you don't necessarily pay attention to things. What the hell just happened there? I don't want to download the friggin' image. What the hell? No. Bloody hell. Really? Okay, it won't even let me show you the image. But I was just going to point out that maybe they should have edited out the friggin' honkin' big sign there. It probably says something like, no trespassing. I don't know. Hudson and Rex. Rock Solid Builds is a reality show. Construction. Think, if you're in Canada, Holmes, Mike Holmes, Under the Hammer, any of those ones. If you're in the States, I don't know of any. Well, one I can think of is Angry Cops' Crack House series. Angry Cops, this little Crack House series. Kind of like that. Good luck understanding what they say. I'm from Newfoundland. These people are from Newfoundland, and half the time I can't make out what they're saying without subtitles. Our dialects, you have to realize, bays and towns were so very isolated for generations. The dialects didn't change, and they tended to, if they evolved in isolation from each other, and it made it, even though we're all speaking friggin' English, yeah, it occasionally makes it very hard for us to understand each other. Like, I've met people from, like, I grew up in small towns on the Burin Peninsula, and I've met people from, say, the Great Northern Peninsula who similarly grew up in small towns, and our dialects are so different that it takes a little while of adjustment to get used to what each other is saying. And my accent is nowhere near as thick as anyone else's in this province because, well, I do this, and I want to be understood. Astrid and Lily Save the World. Son of a Critch. What's this one? Surreal Estate. That's, yeah, that's a kind of a supernatural thriller sort of deal. Severance. Bonavista Peninsula served as the scenic backdrop for Salt's Neck. Yep. That wasn't last year they shot that. Yeah, apparently Reacher served as a filming location for Reacher's third season. That's the Duke of Duckworth. I think. I recognize that window. I know that. I wonder if they put something over it to... oh, no, okay, that's the address, 290 Water Street. That might actually not be the Duke, then. Yeah, okay. So, the only other thing I have to talk about now is the government's policy towards film and television. And we'll just go through this a bit quick. Let's see here. Locations. The province is larger than New Zealand and has 17,000 kilometers of coastline. From rocky coasts to sandy beaches, there have been many features shot where the land meets the sea. I'm honestly shocked no one has ever shot on the beach in the area of Eastport. It's a monstrously large beach, and it's very much a tourist attraction. It's very popular. Province also has one of the most advanced indoor model ocean facilities in the world, perfect for safely filming intense simulated ocean situations. The FDC, Film Development Corporation, is available to discuss your location needs and connect you with local location scouts. Programs. There is the Newfoundland and Labrador Equity Fund, the Newfoundland and Labrador Film Tax Credit, the Newfoundland Independent Filmmakers Cooperative. Excuse me. Again. What else have we got here? The Canada Feature Film Fund, the Canada Media Fund, the Atlantic Studios Cooperative, and this is just the Mrs. Downstairs. How old is this? It looks fairly new. Adventures of Gary and Lou, kids show. Explains why I've never seen it before. Sci-fi put out Surreal Estate. That's what it was. Yeah. Some private videos. So yeah, that's going to be it for that. What's this beatdown trailer? Okay. Is that on YouTube? It is. Let me pause this the second it starts. Open it on YouTube.
Boys, it's about the story. It's always about the story. It's the story of a...
Close that, close that, close that, and close this. Okay. So, yeah, I think I spent the better part of an hour yammering away at you guys about Newfoundland film. In any case, folks, I hope you've enjoyed this little bit of a peek into Newfoundland's pop culture connections. Other than that, as I... excuse me. Cancer. Just kidding. As I said off the hop, if you'd like to support me, the ways to do so are in the description of the pinned comment if this is a premiere. And the ticker. I'm sorry. I'm apparently in need of a nap. Oops. What did I just close that time? Okay, take that down. Okay. I accidentally closed my browser. Oopsie. But other than that, folks, if you'd like to support me without spending any money, you can go and like, share, chat, like, comment, share, chat. Do the internet supportive internet things. Other than that, I hope you're doing well. I hope you continue to do well. And as always, rise and rise again until lambs become lions. Bye-bye.